Let me describe a feeling. You're in a room with a group of producers. Serious producers. People who talk about signal flow and sampling rates and new gear like it's their first language. And you're nodding along, contributing where you can, but there's a quiet voice in the back of your head saying, you're not really one of them. Now flip it. You're with a group of singers, trained vocalists, performers, people who've been learning singing since they were 8 years old. And again, you're there. You're capable. You belong in the room. But that same voice, you're not really one of them either. If you're a singer-producer, there's a high chance you may have felt exactly this. Belonging fully in neither world. Good enough to gain entry, not specialized enough in either to feel legitimate. That's the imposter problem. And it's specific to people like you. I'm Saurabh Shetty and I've placed music on an Amazon series, scored music for feature films and over 150 TV commercials across brands from all over the world. I'm a singer, songwriter and a producer. And I have felt exactly what I just described. More times than I'd like to admit and further into my career than I should have. So this conversation is personal. And I think it's necessary. Imposter syndrome in general is very well documented, but the singer-producer version has a specific origin that must be understood clearly. When you specialize in one thing, your identity is anchored. A classical vocalist has a defined path, a defined community, a defined vocabulary. A hip-hop producer has the same. There are clear benchmarks, clear hierarchies, clear ways to measure progress and belonging. Singer-producers don't have that yet. You exist at an intersection that doesn't have a fully evolved culture yet. The industry still tends to think in lanes. You're either an artist or you're behind a board. The language, the training systems, the YouTube channels, and the career structures, they were all built for people who chose one. So when you try to locate yourself in that landscape, you keep finding that you're between the markers. Not quite here, not quite there. And here's what that does psychologically. It invites comparison on two fronts simultaneously. You're measuring your vocal against singers who do nothing but sing. You're measuring your production against producers who do nothing but produce. And because you're splitting your development times initially across both, you might constantly feel short on comparisons in either one. You know, there's a deeply embedded idea in creative industries that mastery requires singular focus. That to be truly great at something, you have to sacrifice everything else. The 10,000 hours argument applied not to just one skill, but one skill exclusively. And there is truth in it. Depth matters. Specialization produces a certain kind of excellence. But it's not the only kind. The history of recorded music is full of artists who did not specialize in any one skill alone. From the fact that the same mind was making the decisions vocally, arrangement-wise, and production-wise, the coherence of the idea that develops is just not possible through collaboration. Not fully, at least. I'm not saying that great art cannot be done without collaboration, but just to have one idea stick out as the center of an art piece can be achieved way better when it's just one mind working on the entire idea. Think about the music that has moved you the most. A majority of that portion would be done by a single person or two people who are doing multiple things at once. Not because they couldn't hire specialists, but because integration was the entire point. So when the imposter feeling is saying, I am not enough of either, the reframe is, I am neither of the two parts. I am something that neither of the two parts alone is. But it is always important to understand where you stand in your craft, no matter what that is. So try to find singer-producers who are working on a similar stage to you. People working from their home setups, writing and producing music all on their own. Measure yourself there. Learn from people slightly ahead of you in that specific criteria. That's the relevant peer group. If this is resonating, if you've been carrying this feeling around and now it's good to express it in these terms and it's good to finally have the language for it, hit like on this video. It costs you nothing and it helps this content reach singer producers who might be struggling through the same issue. Subscribe if you haven't, share this with someone who might need it, and let's keep going. So practically, what do you do with this? The first thing is to stop presenting yourself as a kind of an apology. I'm kind of a singer, I write my own stuff, I also produce a little. That framing positions you as incomplete. It signals to whoever you're talking with, and more importantly to yourself, that you're not quite legitimate in either direction. Instead, anchor on what you actually do. You make music. You write it, you perform it, you produce it. That's not a lesser version of being a musician. That's a complete creative practice. The second thing is to find and acknowledge your body of work, not compared to anyone else, just your own. What have you made? What's been received well? What have you improved at over the past year? Singer-producers often discount their own output because it doesn't fit neatly into any industry category. But the work exists. It's real. It counts. And I look back at the early commercial work we did, the first few placements, the few client relationships, it didn't feel significant at the time. I felt like we were still figuring it out, but it was the foundation of everything that followed. The 150 commercials didn't happen despite the uncertainty of those years. They happened through them. Your current work is the foundation of your future output. Treat it accordingly. Look, the imposter feeling doesn't disappear overnight, and I won't pretend it does. But it loses its grip when you stop feeding it the comparisons that never were true in the first place. And when you start showing up consistently in your work and how you talk about your work as what you actually are, a singer-producer, building something real from exactly where you are. The imposter problem is real, but it's not evidence of a deficiency. It's a predictable psychological response to operating on an intersection that the industry hasn't fully mapped yet. You're not failing to be a singer. You're not failing to be a producer. You're succeeding at being something different than both parts. You're succeeding at being something more specific and more rare than either. Own the compound identity. Calibrate your comparisons fairly and keep building. I'll see you in the next one.